If you think you already know how the story of ice and fire ends, guess again, because the winds of winter are blowing.
Leaves crunched beneath their heels, and every step sent a spike of pain through Merritt's temple. They walked in silence, the wind gusting around them. The last light of the setting sun was in his eyes as he clambered over the mossy hummocks that were all that remained of the keep. Behind was the Godswood. Peter Pimple was hanging from the limb of an oak, a noose tight around his long, thin neck. His eyes bulged from a black face, staring down at Merritt accusingly. "You came too late," they seemed to say. But he hadn't. He had come when they told him. "You killed him," he croaked. "Sharp as a blade, this one," said the one-eyed man. An aurochs was thundering through Merrick's head. "Mother have mercy," he thought. "I brought the gold." "That was good of you," said the singer amiably. "We'll see that it's put to good use." Merritt turned away from Peter. He could taste the bile in the back of his throat. You had no right." "We had a rope," said Yellowcloak. "That's right enough." Two of the outlaws seized Merritt's arms and bound them tight behind his back. He was too deep in shock to struggle. "No," was all he could manage. "I only came to ransom Peter. You said if you had the gold by sunset, he wouldn't be harmed." "Well," said the singer, "you've got us there, my lord. That was a lie of sorts, as it happens." The one-eyed outlaw came forward with a long coil of hempen rope. He looped one end around Merritt's neck, pulled it tight, and tied a hard knot under his ear. The other end he threw over the limb of the oak. The big man in the yellow cloak caught it. What are you doing?" Merritt knew how stupid that sounded, but he could not believe what was happening, even then. "You'd never dare hang a Frey." Yellowcloak laughed. "That other one, the pimply boy, he said the same thing." "He doesn't mean it. He cannot mean it." "My father will pay you. I'm worth a good ransom, more than Peter, twice as much." The singer sighed. Lord Walder might be half blind and gouty, but he's not so stupid as to snap at the same bait twice. Next time he'll send 100 swords instead of 100 dragons, I fear. "He will!" Merritt tried to sound stern, but his voice betrayed him. He'll send 1,000 swords and kill you all." "He has to catch us first." The singer glanced up at poor Peter. "And he can't hang us twice, now can he?" He drew a melancholy air from the strings of his wood harp. Some melancholy chords from my bass harp for poor old Merritt Frey. Moment of silence. Actually, not moment of silence. Moments of...
Screw that guy.
Sorry, buddy. We had to slap like now on you.
Merritt was a loser and he deserved to die.
He was a drunkard. We got in trouble for saying... we get in trouble for saying people deserve to die. Who do we bag on last? Oh, yeah, Daron. The singer. We were like, yeah, screw Daron. And then people pointed out that he was actually unjustly sort of forced into the watch against his will, and that it's kind of cold to murder somebody for wanting to escape. But I was like, yeah, fair point.
I never said he deserved to die, but I could see people feeling bad for Merritt as well.
I think it was me. I went a little too far with like, I mean, I wasn't being totally serious, but no, I appreciate the correction from the fandom. We should have sympathy for Daron, even though he was a Night's Watch deserter. Merritt Frey, it's hard to have sympathy for any Freys, but you know, whatever. The Freys are all going to pay for the Red Wedding. That is the bottom line.
It's indiscriminate. If your name is Frey, then you know it's not looking good for you right now.
Let's give you the setup here. We're basically talking about all the Brotherhood without banners material in the Riverlands that does not have to do with Stoneheart and Jaime and Brienne in the cave, because we covered that last time. Of course, you guys loved that Stoneheart episode. Thank you very much for all your great feedback on that. However, this one is about the sort of other stuff that they're doing in the Riverlands, and they are doing other stuff. They are hanging Freys, but they're also doing a few more things. So again, to set this up, this all starts with a split of the Brotherhood without banner.
All right, so we know from our Stoneheart episode that Barrett gave his fire of life to Catelyn Stark, and she rose as Lady Stoneheart. Now, I don't know if Barrett necessarily understood what he was creating in Stoneheart, but that's neither here nor there. So there's been a split in the Brotherhood without banners after that. There's been a split in kind of ideology, what the focus of their whole thing is. So when Beric was in charge, the whole idea was to protect the Riverlands from marauders and just bad people. And it was, we are the Brotherhood without banners, because, you know, the upper lords aren't protecting the people, so we'll step in and do that. But now that Catelyn's in charge, it's more about, well, it's completely about Frey revenge, almost exclusively. So it's all about getting back at people with the name Frey, whether or not they had anything directly to do with the Red Wedding or not. And so you also have the Blackfish roaming free around the Riverlands. He's a slippery fish. And then you got the expelled garrison of Riverrun roaming free as well.
Not sure if they're going to cause any trouble. I'm just saying, it's just a garrison roaming around, you know.
Yeah. So though Catelyn is leading the Brotherhood and their main focus is revenge, their plans also seem to be more elaborate than just pure revenge. There's also other inner workings that are going on. There's a little bit more going on underneath that as well. And then there's also a giant wolf pack led by a huge she-wolf roaming the Riverlands. These wolves do not fear men, apparently, and so that's kind of a big deal. And we know that Arya is warging Nymeria from across the Narrow Sea. So that is our setup for what's happening right now in the Riverlands.
So there are multiple avenues here for Frey revenge for the Red Wedding, and going beyond that, like you said, there's some politics happening, some political ends, potentially even the restoration of House Tully going on here. So we'll get to all that, but first let's talk about the Brotherhood without manners. That's the new Brotherhood under Stoneheart. Like we talked about last time, we have to think about these things as ghosts and remnants when we talk about Beric and Stoneheart. And they seem to be very much fixated on the last thing that they were doing when they died. Stoneheart obviously died at the Red Wedding, seeing all of her family, her son and king brought down, you know, the downfall of, so it's not just her family, but literally House Stark. Robb, she thinks of Robb as the only male Stark, you know, left, because she thinks Bran and Rickon are dead. And so to her, this is literally the extinguishing of her house and everything. I mean, it is horrible. So that's what she's stuck on. That's very different from Beric, because when Beric died, he was sent out to protect the people. And that's why I got my little Riverlands Robin Hood get up here. It's like, I just love your little merry band of outlaws in the woods stuff. It's great. In any case, that's what we started out with. We started out with like a Robin Hood kind of deal, you know, where they're protecting the people and stuff. Now it is much, much darker. So they're living in caves where there's no mercy to be found. Justice is just a dim memory as well. Thoros says justice was what we were about when Beric led us, or so we told ourselves. So yeah, we've come a long way from there.
I feel like Stoneheart was probably like their final push into like the darkness, or she's been a big push in that direction, even though they were already kind of headed maybe there anyway. There's been a few hints throughout that they've done some things that have been morally questionable in the past. So.
Well, yeah, they've been, it reminds me of Dumb and Dumber with all the IOUs. Remember they had the briefcase full of money and they filled it with IOUs. Like, those are as good as cash. Like the Riverlands, I mean, the Brotherhood is kind of like that. Like they forage, you know, and they're like, so we'll pay you back eventually.
Like, I can't buy anything with this, Beric.
but we're protecting you, so you're just gonna have to pay us. So yeah, you can see George playing with the sort of the gray area of who is the law, who's protecting the people, because ostensibly Tywin Lannister was the law when he sent his marauders, his dogs, to go and raid the Riverlands. So it's a very mixed up situation. But in any case, the point is the Brotherhood is darker. They are bent on revenge. They are collecting orphans at the Crossroads Inn, which is a point in their favor. That's cool. But, you know, even those orphans are pretty hardcore. So this is Jeyne Westerling, right? She's the one, the innkeep. And Brienne is objecting to being hung on account of having eaten the bread and salt at the inn of the Brotherhood. The bread and salt of the Brotherhood at the inn. And so she says, guessed right, don't mean so much as it used to. Not since Milady come back from the wedding. Some of them swinging down by the river figured they was guests too. We figured different, said the Hound, who's Lemoncloak. They wanted beds. We gave them trees. We got more trees, though, put in another shadow, one-eyed beneath a rusty pod helm. We always got more trees, and that's One-Eyed Jack. So
You
Guess
know,
right didn't mean so much.
yeah, that's the interesting thing about this quote to me is that it shows that the precedent has changed since what Walder Frey slash Tywin Lannister did. Like guest right was something that was really respected in the North, and I guess people are thinking that if the Freys can do this to House Stark, then it doesn't mean anything anymore. Once that's done, then it doesn't mean anything. So yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, when you break the oldest and deepest laws of man, then yeah, it's sort of, you can see the justification growing for murder. And yes, there's more of that coming. Lots of murder. So this is a great quote here. Peter Pimple and Merritt, they were hung at Oldstones, right? And we heard that in the introduction quote. We heard the Brotherhood sort of trolling Merritt as they're about to hang him. And so here's another quote from that same scene. It says, Merritt could hardly think for the pounding in his head. He shamed us. The whole realm was laughing. We had to cleanse the stain on our honor. His father had said all that and more. Maybe so. What do a bunch of bloody peasants know about a lord's honor? Yellow Cloak wrapped the end of the rope around his hand 3 times. We know some about murder, though. So, yeah. He's both declaring what Merritt did as murder and saying, we know plenty about murder. And I don't know about honor, but I know how to hang you from a tree.
Yeah.
So that was Merritt. And of course, Merritt walked into the Godswood and found the body of Peter Pimple hanging from the tree. He was going there to ransom Peter Pimple. So the Brotherhood, again, they're not following any sort of honor. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, we'll ransom this guy to you. And they actually hung him and then hung the guy who brought the gold too.
Yep. They're not following any of these rules that have been set in place, because it's like I said, if the higher lords can break these rules, then it's they're not going to follow these rules either. Why would I follow these rules? Especially when it comes to the Freys, given what the Freys just did. They have no reason to suspect that anyone is going to return any kind of courtesy. So, get what was coming to you.
That's right. And in fact, down here, I've got a quote where Merritt is attempting to justify the Red Wedding. And he says, he offers a bunch of excuses. So they say, and then they respond, so you sewed his head on Robb Stark's neck after both of them were dead. My father did that. All I did was drink. You wouldn't kill a man for drinking. Merritt remembered something then, something that might be the saving of him. They say Lord Beric always gives a man a trial and that he won't kill a man unless something's proved against him. You can't prove anything against me. The Red Wedding was my father's work and Ryman's and Lord Bolton's. Lothar rigged the tents to collapse and put the crossbowmen in the gallery with the musicians. Bastard Walder led the attacks on the camps. They're the ones you want, not me. I only drank some wine. You have no witness. And then it says, as it happens, you're wrong there. The singer turned to the hooded woman, milady. And then, of course, Stoneheart, and says, yeah, he was there. He was one of the ones. So they have basically carte blanche in their minds to execute anyone associated with the Red Wedding because they do have a witness. So there's a modicum of justice going on here. And of course, these people they deserve to die in the sense of the justice of Westeros. The Red Wedding was an abomination of the laws of gods and men. And so you can see what's going on here.
Absolutely. It was kind of a sin against humanity. It was a sin against all of them, honestly, to break that tradition in that way.
Now, the laws of the land are sacred. They're older than any nation or house, and they are. You can tell that that's how people view it. So this is a deep, deep crime here against everything that everyone holds sacred.
And then it was the weasel rat Freys that did it. They've already got a reputation of being kind of slimy and not trustworthy and just kind of not good people.
No, they're definitely not good people, Quinn. You're right about that. And the Merritt and Peter Pimple are not the only Freys to have died so far. There's one other Frey who has already faced the wrath, and that is Sir Ryman Frey, who's actually was the heir to the twins.
So Ryman Frey was sent away from Riverrun by Jaime. Jaime told him just to get the heck out, just go away somewhere. But before he could get to his destination, he was hanged with his entire party. So this probably indicates that the Brotherhood also has spies within Jaime's camp, which is very curious.
Yeah, the Brotherhood basically they own the Riverlands. You have to think about the Lannisters are like an occupying force here. It's not their home ground, and everyone basically hates them. So it's not hard for the Brotherhood to recruit spies and get information. And if you remember, Ryman Frey is the prancing jackanapes who was in charge of the siege of Riverrun when Jaime rolled up. Jaime dismissed him summarily, slapped him across the face with a golden hand. Ryman's girlfriend, camp follower, had Robb's crown, and she was playing with it and calling herself the Queen of the Whores and stuff. And then later we see Lady Stoneheart with Robb's crown. So could be that the camp followers are working with the Brotherhood or somebody else around there. But yeah, the quote here that you're alluding to, Black Walder says, it's almost as if they knew that he would be returning to the Twins and with a small escort. And indeed, the Brotherhood must have known. And the other thing that's striking here is the boldness of the act, which Jaime comments on, saying, these outlaws are growing bold if they dare hang Lord Walder's heir not a day's ride from the Twins.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if they saw the crown as well, because that's really incendiary. I think if somebody saw that, it might really piss them off, especially if Stoneheart caught wind of it or caught sight of it. That would not be okay.
Totally. No, that's definitely an offense. So yeah, that's a good point. If somebody's sitting on the fence about whether or not to inform, because you got to remember, these people aren't like James Bond spies. It's more a matter of just passing along information when someone asks you. And yeah, that would motivate people. So there are more shades of Frey coming. That's the bottom line. These three were only the first. A lot more Freys might die. Quinn made a funny note here in the outline. He says, a lot of Freys might die at once, but not all, because they'll scatter like the rats they are.
But Frey blood will flow.
And then the other thing I would notice from the quote we read a minute ago, where Merritt was all like trying to blame everyone but himself, is that he blamed Lord Bolton, Ryman Frey, and Black Walder. And we already know that Ryman Frey has been killed. Black Walder is prime target. He's hanging right around Riverrun. He's in the camps there last we saw him. And Lord Bolton, he's up at Winterfell, which is a sort of, a little bit further away from the Riverlands. But eventually this Riverlands plot might tie back into Winterfell, and Bolton might even get what's coming to him too. So just file that away for now, that they're on the list. They've been mentioned as Red Wedding responsible people, and potentially anyone associated with the Red Wedding is a target.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the Brotherhood knows and how they're getting their information a little bit. So they had Tom Seven Strings, who we know is part of the Brotherhood, spying at Riverrun. He overheard Jaime's plans about sending Edmure to Casterly Rock. And then you've got Jaime's movements being tracked by the Brotherhood without banners through the wolfish Riverland lords, and like Vance, Piper, Page, and perhaps Blackwood, perhaps House Blackwood. And then you got Lord Vance's maester helping. So really anyone who cares about the common folk could be interested in helping the Brotherhood without banners, because they seem to be the only people, even though they're not totally morally pristine, they're really the only people there that are actually maybe trying to help the people. And so like anyone that potentially was interested in helping the people, like camp followers or just anyone, could potentially be interested in informing on the Brotherhood.
Yeah, like you said, the rank atrocity of what the Freys have done, plus the fact that they're an occupying force, the Freys and Lannisters. So there's lots of motivation. And the reason why it's important to think about the Maester is because like the Maesters are really supposed to stay out of this kind of stuff. And it just shows you like when the Maesters take a hand at desperate times. But people are dying left and right. The Maesters live with a family for a long time. They get attached, just like we saw Lewin get attached to the Stark kids. And even though he had to obey Theon when he took the castle, he was still willing to help the kids escape. So that's what's going on here. There's a lot of personal connections, and the normal political lines are breaking down, and basically anybody could be spying for the Brotherhood.
Yeah, because there's been like an upset in decorum in the worst way, and it just throws everything off. Everyone's uncertain. Everything is uncertain.
And so the question becomes, what are they learning? What information are they picking up with their spies? Well, there's 400 troops under Sir Forley Prester that are set to escort Edmure and the Westerlings to Casterly Rock, Edmure, and also Rosalind Frey, who's pregnant with Edmure's baby. And there's a line about that at Jaime's inner monologue. He's thinking Lord Beric may try to free Edmure before they reach the Golden Tooth. Jaime did not want to have to capture Tully for a third time. So he's saying Beric's gone, but that's just, he's saying the Brotherhood, Beric's band of outlaws, might try to free him. So Jaime's very cognizant of that this is a risk, and it's probably going to happen. So they also learned that the Frey hostages from the Red Wedding are supposed to be sent to King's Landing from the twins. We don't know. There's less information about that, but those are more Stark soldiers and hostages and people that if they're freed, they'll take up arms, you know. And they also, the spies and the Brotherhood has learned that Riverrun is held by Emmon Frey, who has 200 troops and is basically a putz and probably can't hold Riverrun if he's hard pressed. He is doomed. Definitely the kind of guy you want on the other side if you're attacking a castle. So who's doing the attacking? Well, it's going to be the slippery fish, Blackfish, Brynden Blackfish Tully. He is a slippery fish. If you remember, he escaped from Riverrun, escaped from the siege by swimming under the portcullis. They raised it just a little bit, and he swam underwater under cover of night. And then Edmure held out for the whole next day before giving up the castle. So we got a whole 24 hours jump, and he's long gone.
Wait, wait, he didn't go back into the castle to die for no reason?
He did not.
Oh, okay.
That was the TV show. Sorry. No, this Blackfish is just getting started, much like Sir Barristan, who they just sort of killed off because they didn't know what to do with him. This is a character who actually is going to do some really cool stuff in the next book. And so he's roaming free. And then we mentioned the Tully garrison. They were expelled, quote, stripped of all their arms and armor. Each man was allowed 3 days' food and the clothing on his back after he swore a solemn oath never to take up arms against Lord Aemon or House Lannister. We'll have to see how that oath holds, but they're out there. They're running loose. This is Jaime's newfound honor. He struck a deal with Edmure to take the castle, and part of the deal was to turn out the garrison without harm. So we'll see. They're out there too.
And then there is, of course, Robb Stark's widow, Jeyne Westerling, who is potentially very dangerous. There is a quote here. So Jeyne Westerling had been Robb Stark's queen, the girl who cost him everything. With a wolf in her belly, she could have proved more dangerous than the Blackfish. So Jeyne Westerling is potentially pregnant, and there's actually there's various bits of evidence that suggest this, and I personally think that she is.
It's kind of like a matter of everyone saying, "Oh, she's definitely not pregnant." Oh no, for sure. Well, as long as she's not pregnant. Oh, it's a good thing she's not pregnant. Like, okay, she's probably pregnant.
She's definitely pregnant.
So the other thing is that Jeyne is still loyal to Robb. The Westerling betrayal was pulled off by her mother, Sybil Spicer. Jeyne apparently was not aware of it. It says this is Sybil Spicer talking to Jaime, trying to explain a cut on Jaine's head. She says, she would not give up the little crown the rebel gave her. And when I tried to take it from her head, the willful child fought me. It was mine, Jeyne sobbed. You had no right. Robb had it made for me. I loved him. That's total mummery, that seems genuine. No. And there's another line. It says, the widow rode with downcast eyes, huddled beneath a hooded cloak. Underneath its heavy folds, her clothes were finely made, but torn. She ripped them herself as a mark of mourning, Jaime realized. That could not have pleased her mother. So again.
Yeah, the thing I was going to say, too, is that since Robb is dead, it's more like she's loyal to House Stark, really, isn't it?
Point is that she would want to be rescued. So, and that makes her kind of an interesting character, doesn't it? If we get to see her. So now, Blackfish, there's a reason that we would suspect that Blackfish would want to rescue Jeyne Westerling, and that's because he was sworn to protect Jeyne Westerling. Catelyn thinks to herself when she's on the way to the Red Wedding, Queen Jeyne would be safest behind the high, strong walls of Riverrun with the Blackfish to protect her. Robb had even created him a new title, Warden of the Southern Marches. So Brynden would hold the trident if any man could. And then Blackfish himself says, my king entrusted his queen to my keeping, and I swore to keep her safe.
So yeah, Blackfish would have an interest in freeing Jeyne because he swore to keep her safe, and I think he would take a note like that seriously. Family, duty, honor. Yeah, those are the Tully words.
Yeah, and those words are actually really important to remember with Stoneheart and Blackfish, because, even if Stoneheart is lost to honor, the family and the duty part is definitely coming through here. So,
yeah, because we didn't mention this in the Stoneheart episode, really. I feel like what Stoneheart is doing could be seen as her restoring the honor of House Tully, because such a mockery of it was made during the Red Wedding. So maybe she does have a sense of honor, but it's more like a corrupted sense of honor.
Yeah, it restoring honor in that sense is like the status of House Tully. They were taken down wrongfully and almost sacrilegiously, like we mentioned, the mockery of the Tully funeral rites with Catelyn thrown into the river. So, like you said, this kind of is a restoration. And in fact, it might be the restoration of Riverrun that they are after, as well as, freeing Jeyne Westerling, freeing the other captives like Edmure. Like we said, Aemon Frey holds Riverrun with only 200 people. And here's the line. I mean, you tell me if this is foreshadowing. Jaime says, "After the trouble Sir Brendan took to leave us, I doubt he'll come skulking back." And so he's reassuring Aemon Frey, but then he thinks to himself, unless it is at the head of a band of outlaws, he did not doubt that the Blackfish meant to continue the fight. So Jaime knows it's coming.
Yeah, he understands that the Blackfish is not done. Like, this is all he's got to live for. What else does he have other than the fight
And
for
honestly,
his family and his house?
I don't even think Jaime cares that much. He's kind of like reassuring him and like, yeah, it'll be fine. He's like, well, I mean, Blackfish will probably lead a bunch of outlaws to try to take the castle, but whatever, I'm out.
He's like, I'm just here because someone told me, Cersei told me to come up here. I'm just whatever.
I did what I was supposed to do and I'm out. He wants to get back to King's Landing. So, yep. The Blackfish at a head of a band of outlaws. That's coming to town. Another point worth noting is that there's no more valuable hostages at Riverrun because all the noble hostages have been ransomed back to the Riverland families. Edmure is left by now. The Westerlings have left. And so if they attack Riverrun, they can't do the whole like, oh, well, we'll kill your family if you press the attack. So my question for you, Quinn, is will those Tully soldiers who have taken an oath not to take up arms, will they just break their oath and take up arms, or will they find a way around it? Will they adopt the outlaw justice, or how's that going to work?
Well, they saw the destruction of House Tully, but Catelyn is alive again. So I think that's a symbol. And if she's accepted this new way, I think they would fall in line after her because she's the matriarch of House Tully at this point. And it's like, who else are you going to follow? So yeah. And, they were so wronged. And at this point, who cares about honor? Let's get revenge and let's restore this house. So that's the way I mostly see things playing out.
Yeah, and that oath was given to Jaime Lannister, who everybody regards as an oath breaker, and who Lady Catelyn specifically regards as having broken his oath to protect Arya. And that actually leads me back to a discussion that we were having in the Stoneheart episode. Perhaps Stoneheart will not kill Jaime, but rather compel him to do something. Could that have to do with taking back Riverrun? Might Jaime show up and they'll open the gates for him, and then they let in the outlaws so that the Riverlands the Tully soldiers don't actually have to take up arms. Instead, it'll just be the outlaws riding in some sort of Trojan horse-like type of thing, right? Slaughtering
everybody, a more gruesome version of the Red Wedding, because they would I feel like it would be brutal.
That would make sense if they used Jaime as a Trojan horse, essentially, to get into Riverrun. That would alleviate the taking up arms oath. So there you go. That's my prediction. I just thought of that just now, and I like it. That's what I'm going with.
Heck yeah.
Besides the Tully restoration, there could be a couple of things having to do with the potential Stark restoration going on. So first of all, if Jeyne is pregnant, that's Robb's heir, and the Brotherhood could be seeking to install Jeyne and company as a regent in Winterfell, something like that.
And so Jeyne being pregnant with Robb's heir would kind of trump the other option, which is King Jon, because if she's pregnant, then that child would come before Jon. So we all know that people know about the fact that Robb Stark legitimized his brother.
It could get a little messy. And all right. And so the other thing about the potential Jon being Robb's heir thing is that two people who were witness to the will signing or know about it are headed to the wall. and that would be Desmond Grell and Robin Ryger. They're the captain of guards and master at arms from Riverrun. Everybody at Riverrun was given the option to take the black, but they were also two people who spent the whole day strategizing with Blackfish and Edmure before they pulled their whole plan. So they're aware of the will, they're headed north to the wall, and so if they don't know about the Westerling potential baby, then part of the plan could be letting Jon know so that he can restore House Stark. Even though Catelyn was against it at first, if he's the only Stark left, then that could still be something that's going on.
And here's a thing too that I'm just thinking about now. I think she would be more for that because Jon Snow looks like Ned, which I think a lot of people forget. Like, it's said constantly over and over and over again how much he looks like Ned. So maybe, like you said, if there's no other option, plus Catelyn Stark maybe like seeing him and realizing that, like, even if he's not even Ned's actual son, maybe there's a part of Ned inside of him. So, he's a Stark.
Yep, I could see that. And honestly, the enmity between Cat and Jon is a lot more severe on the show than it is in the books. It's definitely there in the books, but it's not quite as extreme as it is. So
I mean,
it's most.
There is that. I have to say that one scene when they're in the room together with Bran's coma is way worse in the book, because in the book she specifically says it should have been you, and she gets it's way worse in the book, at least in that moment, and the show should just kind of get out. But
no, that moment, yes, but that one I'm not really like counting against Kat as much because she's in the midst of grief and trauma and stuff.
All right, so let's get into our final point, which is the wolf pack. So we have Nymeria, Arya's wolf, who dragged Lady Stoneheart from the river. So we have Nymeria, who's connected to Arya, who's connected to Catelyn, and now Catelyn, who's also connected to Nymeria directly because they made physical contact. And so Arya is also bent on revenge just as much as Lady Stoneheart. She chants the names of people that she wants to kill before she sleeps. So Arya could potentially help without realizing it by skin changing Nymeria in her dreams and helping, do Catelyn Stark's bidding, because there might be, because we talked about how there was that part in Nymeria that knew who Catelyn was, and she said, "Rise with us and eat and hunt." Exactly. So there's a part there that recognizes who she is.
Right, because I do think that when Arya eventually gets back to Westeros, she will definitely be piloting the wolf back intentionally. But even before she gets back, to your point, even in her dreams, she uses the wolf pack and she runs with the pack. She loves hunting. She ate the bloody mummers with the inside the wolf dream when she was still in Westeros. So yeah, if there's a crucial moment, wolf pack can pop up at any time. We may get Arya's POV later, sort of filling in what happened. But yeah, that's possible. And of course, eventually Arya will get back and then use the wolf pack too. So wolf pack is going to be a big, big thing. I did a King Bran series of videos on my YouTube channel, King Bran 3, or is it 2? It's either 2 or 3. That has a bunch of stuff about Arya and the wolf pack. There's a lot of foreshadowing. I knew it was there, but when I looked, there was a lot more than I thought. So basically, I'm telling you, it's definitely a thing. We're definitely going to get that. It's not going to be like the show where they teased it and then we didn't get a wolf pack. We're going to get a wolf pack. So, and the best thing about the wolf pack is they're right in the neighborhood, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're nearby. When Jaime sends the people out to look for Blackfish, this is what it says. When asked what he found, he answered, "Wolves, hundreds of the bloody beggars." He'd lost 2 centuries to them. The wolves had come out of the dark to savage them. Armed men in mail and boiled leather, and yet the beast had no fear of them. Before he died, Jade said the pack was led by a she-wolf of monstrous size, a dire wolf to hear him tell it. The wolves got in amongst our horse lines too. The bloody bastards killed my favorite bay. So yeah, these wolves are vicious. They're not afraid of humans. There's hundreds of them potentially, and they're led by a gigantic, ferocious she-wolf. So this kind of seems like a problem, honestly. Someone needs to take care of this.
Yeah, when you put yourself in Jaime's point of view, he's got a lot of problems. He's like, the Freys are incompetent. The Riverland lords are obviously not loyal to him. He knows the Brotherhood is out there. Blackfish is out there. There's a wolf pack out there. And he's just bumbling around and only, he sees some of the danger, but, he got led into Stoneheart's cave. And again, he doesn't really care that much about other people in this situation. He's just sort of doing what he has to do. But he's, he's just like, hey, it's up to you to hold the castle. Even Jenna Lannister tells Aemon Frey that. He's like, look, burn the castle down or hold it. Don't whine.
He's almost got just a little bit of that Tyrion Slaver's Bay energy where he's just like, I'm just here because this is where I am. I don't really care.
Yes, very disconnected. And so Jaime wonders if it could be the same beast that mauled Joffrey near the crossroads. And spoiler alert, yes, it is. It is Nymeria.
It's a good guess, Jaime.
So there you go. That's what we've got cooking in the Riverlands. A lot of Frey revenge. The Blackfish set to be kind of a badass, like potentially freeing Jeyne Westerling and Edmure, helping retake Riverrun. I also wanted to mention that Blackfish was with Robb at Oxcross when they did that cool little goat path move, and they went around the crag, or the Golden Tooth, I guess it was, using the goat path that Grey Wind found, and they snuck around one castle and snuck up on the army. Blackfish was there for all that. So when they're like trying to ambush the Prester army marching through the Westerlands, Blackfish knows the terrain is the point. He knows the little goat path. We might see that come into play again.
Frey blood will flow.
You're like Blackfish up there rolling rocks off the cliff on top of those soldiers or something. So, and one other thing that I forgot to mention is that Forley Prester has orders to kill Jeyne Westerling and Edmure if they should try to run or if someone should try to rescue them. So it's going to be a dicey situation when we see it in the opening pages of the Winds of Winter, because George Martin has confirmed that Jeyne Westerling will appear in the Winds of Winter prologue. Not that it will be a Jeyne POV, but that she'll be in it. So we're going to see this action right away. So there you go. This is a anticipated plot line, and it's going to be the first one that we'll get in Winds of Winter. So there it is.
Yep. And thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to both of our channels. Links in the description.
Please, sir, give us a like.
Please, can I have a like?
Brave Sir Robin ran away. Bravely ran away. That's my minstrel.
All right, peace.